2 years ago, PTI was alleging, and all its activists inside the US itself were alleging that the US is interfering in Pakistani politics. And today, after this resolution, this lame duck resolution, they are celebrating that, thank you, US, now you are actually interfering in Pakistani politics. The lobbying efforts by PTI activists trying to influence their respective representatives in their respective constituencies, who are completely ignorant.
We managed our election very, very well in a very, very difficult circumstances. Fine, we have a few problems, and we are openly discussing them, as Dr. Ali just mentioned, in Pakistani media every day, on the social media, everywhere. Nobody's stopped from discussing those things. So I think we have nothing to be embarrassed of. US lawmakers and people who wish to speak about Pakistan, they need to understand this. You're talking about one of the largest democracies in the world. Yes, we have our share of troubles. We're improving. Praise it. Encourage us.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome to Program Insight, We News English Pakistan. The United States Congress has passed an overwhelming resolution which called for investigation into interference and fraud practices about February elections. This resolution has rocked Pakistan-US relation. Pakistan has reacted very strongly to this resolution and rejected the assertions made in the resolution. The Defense Minister Khwaja Asif went ahead of this particular resolution and spoke very harshly about the adoption of this particular resolution and the content and the wording of this resolution about February 8 elections. To discuss this all, whether this resolution will have any adverse impact on Pakistan-US relation at a time when both countries are enjoying excellent relations. Democracy is on track in Pakistan. To discuss this, we are joined by two very renowned analysts, Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali Saab, who is an expert of international affairs, and another journalist, Mr. Ahmed Qureshi, who has been covering different regions, different international issues from national security. And we are also joined by international journalist, Mr. Ahmed Qureshi, who has been covering various issues across different regions, from national security to conflicts and international affairs. Very warm welcome to Program Perspective, Mr. Ahmed Qureshi and Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali Saab.
Great to join you, Mati.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining Program Insight. And Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali Saab, first, would you like to comment on this, that everything was normal, things were going very well as far as Pakistan-US relations were concerned. When elections took place, result came out, US comments came, US was satisfied, international observers were satisfied. Tell us that what prompted US Congress to adopt such harsh resolution after a couple of months?
Thank you for having me, Mateen Saab. I think there are three reasons behind this resolution, which was seen as somewhat shocking in the power circles of Pakistan. Because, as you rightly pointed out, that the last couple of years have been spent by the current government in Islamabad to repair the delicate and critical relations with Washington after they were badly damaged due to the irresponsible and erratic behavior of PTI based on the allegations of interference in Pakistani politics, and also the infamous cipher controversy. So that's why, because the current administration in Islamabad has spent enormous political capital in trying to improve its image and relations with the US. So it was understandable that they were really shocked and somewhat annoyed at this resolution, and which is also reflected in the very angry tweet and statements by the defense minister, who, for the first time, perhaps any cabinet member of Pakistan, pointed out that the U.S. own last two elections, raised some concerns from different parties. But there's a method to the madness, and I think there are three reasons behind it. In order to understand the Pak-US relations, which are complex and cyclical, I think there are three pillars of this complex relationship. One is security, the other is economy, and the third is politics. Although Pakistan and US have had very warm and cordial relations, close alliances in terms of security partnership, we have also enjoyed significant US investment, economic relief in the financial domain. But the political pillar has always been challenging for Pakistan, because US, as it considers itself as the leader of the liberal world order, has used democracy as an instrument of coercion to make Pakistan, act more committed towards democratic credentials, which in Pakistan is interpreted and perceived as interference in Pakistani domestic politics. And the second reason is perhaps Washington is a bit concerned about the warming of Islamabad's relations with Beijing as well, despite Pakistan's repeated efforts aimed at pacifying and convincing Washington that Pak-China relations are not meant at challenging or affecting the security or geopolitical interests of any other power center, particularly US. And Pak-China relations are primarily aimed at improving Pakistan's economic challenges and developing this region and country in particular. But the third and most important factor which has led to this resolution is perhaps the consistent and very active lobbying efforts of PTI activists based in the US, and trying to influence those lawmakers in the US who are sympathetic to their constituencies and are perhaps not too careful how this resolution will affect the delicate and very important Pak-US relations. But I think all is not lost, because in my view, I think despite this resolution, the economic and security cooperation between Washington and Islamabad is likely to be unaffected, and it will continue because, as you have seen, immediately after the February elections, despite some concerns, Pakistan dismissed those concerns, and again this time the State Department is much more careful and cautious in the choice of words as compared to this resolution, which reflects that Washington and the current administration wants to maintain friendly, close, cordial relations with Pakistan, despite certain differences.
Mr. Ahmed Qureshi, you have been keeping an eye on American politics and relations and their mindset, and currently they are also engaged in Middle East. Tell us the adoption of this resolution. In the opening, it is said it calls for investigation into the interference and fraud practices. My question specifically to you: what type of investigation could be ordered by U.S. administration? Number one, and number two, is this resolution binding on the U.S. administration?
Exactly. Thank you very much, Mateen, and it's really an honor to join you and Dr. Ali. And obviously, we're doing it. At least I'm joining you for the first time, so people watching us should know that we go, all three of us, way back, and it's great to see you. And both of you are very, very distinguished political commentators in Pakistan. So, and this is very interesting, obviously, what we're discussing. And we all, of course, in Pakistan are watching American politics. Now, I would say I'm really very happy and glad that U.S. lawmakers came together and passed this resolution. And the reason is that I'm happy is that thanks to this effort, we came to know three very important things. Number one, we came to know that the Pakistani-American relationship at this moment is on a very positive trajectory, positive dynamics, and this was an opportunity, thanks to this resolution, that the Pakistani Ministry of Foreign Affairs came out with a very measured and very good, very strong, actually, statement. And also, I think there was a resolution that will be passed by the Pakistani Parliament on the same thing. And both of these, the resolution that the Pakistani Parliament will pass or has already passed, and the statement by the Pakistani Ministry of Foreign Affairs, both of them emphasized a key point, that the Pakistani-American relationship at this moment is on a very dynamic, positive trajectory. So thanks to this resolution by the U.S. Congress, we came to know, number one, this. Number two, we came to know that the U.S. lawmakers behind this resolution are honestly clueless about both the positive dynamics of Pakistani-American relationship, number one, and are clueless also about the internal dynamics in Pakistan. Because if they knew better, they would know that Pakistan came out of a very, as Dr. Ali just mentioned, we came out of a very turbulent period over the past 5 years in which anti-Americanism was at a peak in Pakistan, and for the first time, a dangerous development, it engulfed young urban Pakistanis thanks to the previous government, unfortunately, and that takes us actually, the previous government, the former Prime Minister Imran Khan, this resolution basically, and that's 3 points. And the third point why I'm really glad that the American lawmakers came out with the resolution is that number 3, it really exposes the lobbying happening right now in Washington, D.C. So we are agreed, number one, first of all, that Pakistan and America are on a positive trajectory. We have positive dynamics. And we came to know this from the Pakistani Ministry of Foreign Affairs, an official statement, a very measured, very strong, very robust statement. Number 2, we came to know that the American lawmakers are clueless about the internal dynamics of Pakistan and also the dynamics of Pakistan-American relationship. And third, we came to know that we actually are seeing and witnessing a lobbying effort, really, basically focused on disturbing and poisoning Pakistani-US relationship. And unfortunately, the former Prime Minister and his political party are involved in this. And the reason I say this is, and by the way, when I say this also, I should also add, we also came to know the limits of this lobbying effort, because from the people I spoke to in Washington, D.C., both Pakistani Americans who are lobbying, who were in contact with the people who introduced this resolution, particularly one congressman, Mr. Rich McCormick, who introduced this resolution way back in November 2023. By the way, it took them, this resolution was tabled in 2023. Frankly, nobody was interested in it. It took such a long time. I mean, even the topic of this resolution, which is the Pakistani election of February 2024, it's been like 4 months now, 5 months. It's an old story. The US media is completely not interested in this resolution. I frankly struggled to find a single mainstream American news outlet who covered this story. Nobody did. Obviously, it concerns us much more, so we're covering it. But nobody in America is really interested in this story. And this is a non-binding resolution coming to and that's my closing point, to your actual question. It's really has no impact because it's a non-binding resolution. There will be no investigation. And frankly, I know from speaking to lobbyists within the Pakistani American community, the Pakistani American lobbyists working on behalf of former Prime Minister, the convicted Prime Minister Imran Khan and his political party, the PTI, they basically wanted the US Congress resolution to include a few more things. They wanted this resolution to include a clear indictment and condemnation of the current elected Pakistani government, a clear indictment of the Pakistani security establishment, the military, a number of things which there was no consensus on within the US Congress. So none of those things were actually included in this. And generally, just to conclude, generally, Mateen, if you read the text of the resolution, it's really very generic. It talks about supporting Pakistani democracy. Yes, it mentions a couple of things, some irregularities in Pakistani elections. That's something that we also in Pakistan discuss every day. The Pakistani system is very open, very transparent. Every day you have discussions in Pakistani media on irregularities that happened in the previous election and also in past elections. So I think I wouldn't even, Dr. Ali, go to the extent of saying, this exercise, this resolution was really an act of, pressuring Pakistan because of our relations with China, whatever. It just, I would say, a botched effort at lobbying against both the Pakistani-American relationship and try to disturb it, and also to create wrong impressions about Pakistan, the elected government in Pakistan, and none of that really was included in this resolution. It's very generic, very non-binding.
Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali Saab, if you look into the statement of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is of course, face of Pakistan globally, the statement of the Foreign Office is mild, right? It should have spoken more harsh because this resolution is direct interference into Pakistan's internal political affairs. With compared to the statement made by Khwaja Muhammad Asif, the Defense Minister, the political statement that came from the Defense Minister, that is a befitting response to this particular resolution, keeping aside the bilateral relations. So how do you see that, what prompted Khwaja Asif to make a more tough statement on this resolution?
I think if you look at the way this resolution has triggered Pakistan's response, I think it is quite symmetrical and proportionate. By symmetrical, I mean the response came at three levels. First, the Foreign Office, as Qureshi Saab rightly pointed out, a very measured, composed, and carefully worded, but firm response. But this was reinforced by a very strong statement by Minister of Defense, but also by the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister as well, who announced on the floor of the Parliament that they are trying to bring another resolution of similar type in condemnation of this resolution. Now, that would be a symmetrical response because the resolution from the US Congress was critical and demanding. So the Pakistani response was also symmetrical and proportionate from the Pakistani Parliament. Whereas if you look at the stance and the tone of State Department, it was careful, measured, not to rock the boat, not to affect the relations. Similarly, Pakistani Foreign Office response was also dismissive, but carefully worded, and also stressed the commonalities and the improvement of relations in areas of convergences. So when you look at this dynamic, this indicates exactly what Qureshi Saab just pointed out, that this is a reflection of, unfortunately, two things. The lobbying efforts by PTI activists trying to influence their respective representatives in their respective constituencies, who are completely ignorant not only of Pakistan's parliamentary and electoral processes and its complexities, as well as the significance that the US stakeholders and leadership attributes to its relations with Pakistan in economic domain, in security domain, at multilateral fora, and so on and so forth. So the real stance, the official stance of both Foreign Office of Pakistan and State Department, despite divergences, is measured, careful, and aimed at maintaining and building the relations, which is mutually beneficial in so many domains further. And they are trying to reduce the impact, the negative, erratic impact that this isolated, unthoughtful resolution is not likely, hopefully, to have on the bilateral relations. But it is important it is important for the US administration and the State Department to realize that although it's a very open and vibrant polity, but it is important that the US congressmen need to be better informed and better briefed about the significance of Pak-US relations in so many domains, and how valuable and precious this relation Washington and all its power centers consider Pakistan's relations. So it is, and Madin Sahab, I have covered US Congress myself. I've attended several sessions and hearings on South Asia and Pakistan. And let me tell you, without naming or embarrassing any individual, I've met several US congressmen who were completely ignorant of Pakistan's election process, parliament, how parliamentary democracy works, the areas of cooperation, and so on and so forth. And it is experts who are invited to guide, advise, and inform them through open hearings in order to conduct these relations in a more responsible and careful manner. So I think despite this shock and annoyance which this resolution has received in Islamabad and Pindi, I think beyond this, both countries and all their power centers are mature, responsible, and careful enough to continue to navigate this critical relationship beyond this loud, unthoughtful resolution for mutual interest, both at international level, regional level, and at bilateral.
Well, Ali, Mateen, if you just allow, Mateen, before
Yes.
your question, just a quick thing, because Dr. Ali made a very important point, which is the lack of understanding of Pakistani processes, the system in Pakistan, inside the U.S. Congress. And it's very important to also understand, the reason why you had so many lawmakers who actually joined in voting on this resolution when it was passed in the U.S. Congress. And the reason for that is because it was very generic. It was more about human rights and democracy, and usually, for optics. And this is an election year in the U.S., so a lot of the lawmakers in the U.S. Congress really want to appear in front of their voters, the districts, as if they're very active internationally and they're following things, and obviously democracy and human rights and the liberal international system is one of the key things always in U.S. elections. So one of the reasons why you have so many people actually who joined in who even probably really were not interested. And when I say not interested, Mateen and Dr. Ali, we really need to emphasize this point, because trust me, nobody in DC is interested in this resolution, obviously. I mean, nobody talked about it, except for maybe one or two lawmakers who everybody knows in DC are actually meeting with lobbyists of the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, who's very upset, by the way, that the Biden administration completely boycotted him. If you recall, when President Biden was elected, the U.S. president spoke to a number of key world leaders, including in our region. Unfortunately, it's not good, for Pakistan that he did not speak to the Pakistani Prime Minister at that time, but he did not speak to Prime Minister Imran Khan for a very specific reason, because the Prime Minister was really trying to rock the boat of Pakistan-U.S. relationship and trying to damage this relationship. So there's a lot of anger really within this lobbying effort of the former Prime Minister, and a clear interest at disturbing the relationship between the Biden administration and the current Pakistani elected government.
Can I just add one point to it, Madeen Saab, if you allow me, very quickly? Very important point raised by Qureshi Saab. I think that is the heart of the matter, Madeen Saab, because if you recall, my first point was that it is very ironic that the reason why Islamabad and Pindi have expressed such shock and dismay at this resolution is because they have spent enormous effort and political capital at repairing Pak-US relations. which was badly damaged by PTI government through its irresponsible and erratic allegations, particularly regarding the cipher controversy. So if after this resolution, if Pak-US relations were to be affected, it would actually promote and further the agenda of those elements who actually have a vested interest in harming Pak-US relations, which is what PTI has always tried for the last 2 years, to try to influence the power centers in Washington, that they need to pressurize Pakistan, and if Pakistan responds too strongly and the bilateral relations is affected after this resolution, then that is exactly what PTI wants. And it is very ironic that we have come to, a full circle in last 2 years. That 2 years ago, PTI was alleging, and all its activists inside the US itself were alleging that the US is interfering in Pakistani politics. And today, after this resolution, this lame duck resolution, they are celebrating that, thank you, US, now you are actually interfering in Pakistani politics. So I think those who matter in the US need to reflect that despite temptation and provocations from the PTI lobbyists and activists in the US, they were careful and responsible enough not to pay heed or yield or to be affected and influenced by such efforts, and keep on building and improving this critical bilateral relations. Now, if today PTI activists are celebrating that, thank you, US, now you are finally interfering in Pakistani politics. So that is exactly what the Biden administration originally wanted to avoid, the impression that Pakistan has a free, functional democracy and US has no interest. If you recall it, the statements that came out immediately, and in fact, during the election process in Pakistan, PTI activists spent enormous effort in trying to extract a statement from the US State Department that, who are you supporting? And the US State Department spokesman issued repeated statements that we have no favorites in Pakistani politics. But through such resolutions, they are doing exactly the opposite. So it is very important for the US government to prove that it has no, interest in interfering in Pakistani politics. It has no favorites. It trusts Pakistan's ability to navigate and manage its political system. Despite, we are an exciting nation. We are a vibrant nation. We are a very independent nation. That's why we have such vibrant and dynamic debates on all talk shows. That's our favorite pastime. But that does not mean that we are not able to manage our affairs ourselves and need dictation or advice from somebody else.
Mr. Ahmed Qureshi, another important element and the wording in the US Congress resolution, it says that it condemns the suppression of participation into the election process, intimidation, and these all things. Contrary to this statement, the ground realities and indicators have been telling different things. It was Pakistan's historic elections where the voters' turnout was record high. So people have been participating in elections. PTI was also allowed to participate, and the PTI's legal issues were with the court of the law. At the last moments, they were fighting to get their electoral symbol and other things from the Supreme Court of Pakistan. So whatever issues they had with the court of law. If the party was banned, there was a technical problem. There were irregularities in party election. And as far as election symbol was concerned, and that symbol was also a decision by the Election Commission of Pakistan not to grant this symbol to PTI. Now, question is, despite these all things, ground realities, massive voters turnout, so these all things should have been noted by the US Congress resolution instead of criticizing. There have been free speech, media was free. There have been free political speeches, rallies, and everything.
What an amazing point, Mateen, you just raised. What an amazing point. I mean, I wish if Congressman McCormick paid attention to the fact that how the Pakistani system, the state, went and the election commission and the law enforcement forces and the agencies, everyone went out of their way to ensure the maximum turnout of people, despite the security situation and occasional terrorist attacks that Pakistan usually faces. But the state went out of its way, and the law was followed. I wish if this resolution, the language in this resolution actually started with congratulating Pakistan on conducting this. And we're not a small country. Just recently, for example, in our neighborhood, India had this huge, massive election. And obviously, it's a great thing when a country manages its election well. So did Pakistan. And Pakistan is the 5th or 6th largest country in the world in terms of population size. And we managed our election very, very well in a very, very difficult circumstance. So that's a missed opportunity. It really confirms the point that some of the lawmakers honestly had a different agenda. And that's number one. But another thing very important is we in Pakistan and the Pakistani media actually have always been talking. And it's not abnormal. We should not be embarrassed by the fact that there could be things that go wrong in an electoral exercise. It happens everywhere. And you just mentioned, Mateen, a few minutes ago, it happened in the United States in a number of previous elections.
2020.
Exactly. And who forgets the year 2000, the Bush-Gore election, and the huge, exactly, we all remember a huge crisis in the U.S. electoral crisis. So in 2020, in 2000, it happens everywhere. So what if we in Pakistan have a number of smaller electoral issues that the good thing is that the Pakistani system is trying to correct all of those things. So yes, fine, we have a few problems and we are openly discussing them, as Dr. Ali just mentioned, in Pakistani media every day, on the social media, everywhere. Nobody's stopped from discussing those things. So I think we have nothing to be embarrassed of. Yes, we have electoral issues. The US has, everybody does. We're handling them, we're taking care of them, and we're improving. We're improving our electoral process. Pakistan is one of the world's largest democracies. It's about time the US lawmakers and people who wish to speak about Pakistan, they need to understand this. You're talking about one of the largest democracies in the world. Yes, we have our share of troubles. We're improving. Praise it. Encourage us. Don't fall in the trap of lobbies that are trying to create, number one, wrong impression, and number two, also damage Pakistani-American relationship.
Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali Saab, how you see the relations, bilateral relations between Pakistan and United States beyond this resolution? Although you have already mentioned that there will be no adverse effect, but certain political elements in Pakistan are celebrating that whatever was their stance, their narrative, it's the win of that. So, do you think there will be more adverse effect on the relationship? As you mentioned already earlier, that the way PTI damaged bilateral relation, it was with the great efforts of our civil military leadership in repairing that particular relationship. So, tell us candidly that what is the future of Pakistan-US bilateral relations? Although this resolution has rocked Pakistan and bilateral relations, the way we are witnessing, reading, seeing the reaction by the leadership.
Thank you. I know because since you're running out of time, I'll be brief. There are 3 points, Mateen Saab. Number one, as I earlier pointed out, Pak-US relations in the last 76 years are anchored on 3 pillars: politics, economy, and security. Although our bilateral cooperation is closest and most substantive in the security domain, but gradually and thankfully we are seeing substantive and consistent improvement in bilateral economic relations. It is Pakistan's vital interest to maintain goodwill of the US, because the US is right now Pakistan's biggest export market. and maintaining and developing it further is in Pakistan's own national interest at a time when Pakistan is attempting to surmount its economic challenges at home. The third pillar is, political, which has been, somewhat challenging because of the U.S. expectations. And as Qureshi Saab rightly pointed out, unfortunately, our political system is not understood very well on the Hill. Although there is better understanding and more careful and responsible, perspective and more informed perspective in the State Department and Pentagon, which is based on experience as well as understanding. Whereas the voices and the perspectives coming from the U.S. Congress, unfortunately, betrays a lack of understanding of Pakistan's political system, culture, and environment. Now, coming to the second part of your question, how it will affect Pakistan-US future relations, it will not affect Pakistan-US relations at all. And I think, like Qureshi Saab rightly pointed out, both countries have already, at the governmental level, demonstrated the care, responsibility, and wisdom to choose their words carefully, although the voices are coming from Parliament and Congress, which are obviously aimed at domestic audiences and representing the public sentiment rather than articulation of actual policies. The third aspect, however, briefly I'll add, this also reflects an opportunity. This represents an opportunity for Pakistan as well, and the decision makers in Pakistan as well. That it is a reality that the lobbyists of PTI have done a lot of homework and effort in their constituencies, which has resulted and culminated in this unfortunate, ill-informed resolution. So perhaps the current ruling party, led by PMLN, and also its coalition partners like People's Party, also need to put in adequate and substantive and, very importantly, consistent efforts at improving its goodwill, relations, and influence at all power centers in the US, and not just deal on a daily basis or occasionally with those in power. That is very important, so that if such lobbying efforts are made by PTI, then PMLN and People's Party and other leading parties of Pakistan are able to give their alternative perspective to the US congressmen, so that they get a bigger, more diverse and inclusive picture of Pakistani politics and are not becoming hostage to only one perspective coming from PTI or the government reaction coming from the Parliament or the Foreign Office. That is something which I think our political parties need to do. It's not just the role of a government.
Okay, Mr. Ahmed Qureshi, what is the way forward? Time has already crossed. Tell us the way forward, how Pakistan and US government should engage after this particular resolution, which has been based on misunderstanding, as Dr. Mohammad Ali Saab has said. So very short and crispy answer I need from you.
Engagement. That's what Dr. Ali just mentioned. We need to increase the engagement. We need to use it for more awareness in DC about Pakistan. And I think it's a great opportunity, as Dr. Ali said. And we already see engagement increasing at both levels, both sides. And a third thing is maybe to also understand each other better. I think there's a lot of confusion in Pakistan still, and also in DC, with regards to our relationship with China, the American relationship with China. I think there's a lot of confusion. I don't think the reality is as difficult or alarming as many of the analyses portray them to be. So I think as Dr. Ali said, I think we should end at this word, engagement. This is an opportunity to increase engagement, and we should do it. We should take this and seize the opportunity.
Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Ahmed Qureshi. Despite his very busy schedule, he participated in Program Insight along with Dr. Syed Mohammad Ali Saab. Thank you so much, both senior most analysts, Mr. Ahmed Qureshi and Dr. Syed Mohammad Ali Saab. Despite your busy schedule, you spoke with Program Insight. And let me conclude by saying exactly what Mr. Ahmed Qureshi said, that the better option is to stay engaged. Pakistan and United States should stay engaged, and United States should not just make conclusion just on the basis of one party's narrative. Rather, it should have seen into other factors and indicators before adopting this particular resolution on elections in Pakistan. Thank you so much again, once again, and Allah Hafiz from the studios till our next program.